So unless I get muted, and without a host, you can't mute me, you're going to hear a ding. And if I end up taking over the screen, I will have my video off so you see Oz. So, and then at the end of the meeting, I will report on the number of Oz that each speaker, and that's everybody who speaks, not just the speeches. Madam Toastmaster.
Well, Chris, I have to say that's really intensified the pressure. I need to be watching my own eyes from now. Next row I'm going to introduce is Grammarian-Tricia.
Good evening, Toastmasters. I am the grammarian tonight, so I will be listening for the use of the word of the day. I don't think that includes the chat box, but it's whoever's verbalizing it. And our Miss Sarah gave us the definition in reference to attitude, disposition, or mood. And a great example, it's an adjective, so I could give another example. So I have a great mindset for making progress with Toastmasters participation. I will give a report on this toward the end of our meeting. So I'm kind of watching for English, grammar, language use in general. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Tricia. And I would like to add that our word of the day for this meeting is splendid. I'm going to enter that into the chat box. I think that's a wonderful word that we're going to try to practice to integrate into our speeches today. The next row I'm going to introducing is our watcher today, BDC.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Brian David Crawford. Most people just call me BDC. My job is to watch you in the least creepy way possible. Just making sure that you've got a good frame across the board. You know, you're following the rules of thirds, you got a nice background behind you, you don't have like a dog walking around. Just try to make sure this all looks as nice and professional as possible. It is my understanding that I will send messages to people who are failing and not doing so well to say, hey, think about this, but that's what I'm doing today. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much. Our chat monitor today is Elaine. Thank you so much for filling the row.
So as the chat monitor today, I am going to be watching the chat, seeing that people are making comments, supporting each other, but do remember to pay key attention to the speakers. Don't let the chat be too much of a distraction. And I will give a report at the end. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Last but not least is our vote counter today, Christian.
Madam Toastmaster, I hope I was going to have a quiet moment, but yes, I am the vote counter. So what does that mean? That means that when we are invited to vote for our best speaker, best table topic speaker, or best evaluator, you kindly send your preferred choice, only one, for each segment to me via private message. You do that by going to the Zoom chat. If you're not familiar with it, if it's the first time, when you go to the Zoom chat, you click on the drop-down menu. Instead of everyone, you choose my name. You look for vote counter, and you just send me the message. Thank you so much. Over to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much. Now it is my privilege to introduce our first speaker today. I have to excuse, I might not pronounce everyone's name correctly, perfectly. Prahinski. Today's speech, she's going to honor her dad, who was a US Air Force navigator and lifelong learner. He earned his bachelor degree when she was 5 years old and his master degree when she was 16. In honor of his memory, she has aligned each project from the interpretive reading manual with his memory. Today, she will read a monodrama, except from Jonathan Livingston Segal by Richard Bach. Please join me in welcoming Kara Prahinski.
Thank you. From 2,000 feet, he tried again, rolling into his dive, beak straight down, wings full out, and stable from the moment he passed 50 miles per hour. It took tremendous strength, but it worked. In 10 seconds, he blurred through 90 miles per hour. Jonathan had set a world speed record for seagulls. But victory was short-lived. The instant he began his pullout, the instant he changed the angle of his wings, he snapped into the same terrible, uncontrolled disaster, and at 90 miles per hour, it hit him like dynamite. Jonathan, living seagull, exploded in midair and smashed down into the brick-hard sea. When he came to, it was well after dark, and he floated in the moonlight on the surface of the ocean. His wings were ragged bars of lead, but the weight of failure was even heavier on his back. He wished, feebly, that the weight could just be enough to drag him gently down to the bottom and end it all. As he sank low in the water, a strange, hollow voice sounded within him. There's no way around it. I am a seagull. I am limited by my nature. If I weren't meant to learn so much about flying, I'd have charts for brains. If I were meant to fly at speed, I'd have falcons, short wings, and live on mice instead of fish. My father was right. I must forget this foolishness. I must fly home to the flock and be content as I am, as a poor, limited seagull. The voice faded and Jonathan agreed. The place for a seagull at night is on shore. And from this moment forth, he vowed he would be a normal gull. It would make everyone happier. He pushed wearily away from the dark water and flew toward the land, grateful for what he had learned about work-saving low-altitude flying. He felt better for his decision to be just another one of the flock. There would be no ties now to the force that had driven him to learn. There would be no more challenge and no more failure. And it was pretty, just to stop thinking and fly through the dark towards the light above the beach. Dark! The hollow voice cracked in alarm. Seagulls never fly in dark! Jonathan was not alert to listen. It's pretty, he thought. And the moon and the lights twinkling on the water, throwing out those beacon trails through the night. And it's also peaceful and still. Get down! Seagulls never fly in the dark. If you were meant to fly in the dark, you'd have eyes like an owl. You'd have charts for brains, and you'd have falcon short wings. There in the night, a few hundred feet in the air, Jonathan Livingston Seagull blinked. His pain, his resolutions vanished. Short wings? A falcon's short wings? That's the answer. What a fool I've been. All I needed was a tiny little wing, and all I've been is to fold most of my wings and fly on just the tips alone. Short wings. He climbed 2,000 feet above the Black Sea, and without a moment for thought or failure or death, he brought his forewings tightly into his body, left only the narrow, swept daggers of his wingtips extended into the wind, and fell into a vertical dive. He closed his eyes to slits against the wind and rejoiced. 140 miles per hour and under control. If I dive from 5,000 feet instead of 2,000, I wonder how fast. His vows of a moment before were forgotten, swept away in the great swift wind, yet he felt guiltless. Breaking the promises he made himself, such promises are only for the gulls who accept the ordinary. One who has touched excellence in his learning has no need for this kind of promise. By sunup, Jonathan Gull was practicing again from 5,000 feet. The fishing boats were specks in the flat blue water. breakfast flock was a faint cloud of dust motes circling. He was alive, trembling ever so slightly with delight, proud that his fear was under control. Then, without ceremony, he hugged in his forewings, extended his short, angled wingtips, and plunged directly toward the sea. By the time he was past 4,000 feet, he reached terminal velocity. The wind was solidly beating a wall of sound against which he could move no faster. He was flying now straight down at 100, 200, 14 miles an hour. He swallowed, knowing that if his wings unfolded at this speed, he'd be blown into a million tiny shreds of seagull. But the speed was power, and the speed was joy, and the speed was pure beauty. He began his pull out at 1,000 feet, wingtips thundering and blurring in the gigantic wind, the boat and the crowd of gulls tilting and growing meteor fast directly in his path. He could not stop. He did not know yet how to turn at that speed. Collision would be instant death, and so he shut his eyes. It happened that morning, then, just after sunrise, that Jonathan Livingston's seagull fired directly through the center of the breakfast flock, ticking off 212 miles per hour, eyes closed, in the great roaring shriek of the wind and feathers. The gull of fortune was smiling upon him this once, and no one was killed. 214 miles per hour. It was a breakthrough, the greatest single moment of history of the flock. And in that moment, a new age opened for Jonathan Gull. Flying out to his lonely practice area, folding his wings for a dive from 8,000 feet, he set himself at once to discover how to turn. A single wingtip feather he found moved a fraction of an inch, gives a smooth, sweeping curve at tremendous speeds. Before he learned this, however, he found that moving more than one finger at that speed would spin you like a rifle ball, and Jonathan had flown the first aerobatics of any seagull on Earth. He spared no time that day for talk with other gulls, but flew on past sunset. He discovered the loop, the slow roll, the point roll, the inverted spin, the gull bunt, and the pinwheel. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Kara. I have to admit, this is my first time to hear a speech in the interpretive reading menu. So there's a first time for everything. Thank you for reading for us. Our second speaker today is Antoinette Trim. And tonight she's working on her engaging humor path, level 1, mastering fundamentals. And it is the second speech of the evaluation and feedback project. That's the project number 2. I would like to ask Antoinette a question before I introduce her speech today, because the second speech of project 2 is to take the feedback you get from the first speech and then including your improvement. So I would like to ask Antoinette, can you very briefly introduce to us what was the feedback you received for your first speech and what other things you plan to work on for today? Hi, Antoinette. Can you hear us?
Antoinette looks like her screen is frozen.
Yeah.
And let's go to speaker 3 and then we'll come back to Antoinette when we're able to.
Let's do that. Our speaker 3 is Emily Thompson. Emily, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Perfect, thank you. Our speaker 3 today, Emily, she's working on engaging humor level 4 speech called Write a Compelling Blog. And Emily is a professor at a community college in Michigan. She is taking a sabbatical semester from teaching and has recently been blogging for the college learning community. And while she's doing her blogging, the coronavirus pandemic intervened. And she's writing a wide range of learners from her backyard. And today she's going to show us some of the joy that she finds from her backyard. Her speech title is Blogging from the Backyard During the Pandemic. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and guests and fellow and sister Toastmasters. I have been blogging since 2014, and you might wonder, why do I blog? Well, I don't blog because I have anything particular to say, but I am required to communicate, and therefore I do it through blogging. Back in 2015, I had a sabbatical and I had to blog, and this year I have a sabbatical and I have to blog, put out a few blogs with what I am doing. Another reason is I planned over a year ago to blog in order to complete this level 4 project. You might ask, who am I blogging for? And you already heard, it's largely my students and learning community at the community college, but also neighbors, friends, and family. I have 3 quick points I wanted to make that I've learned this time about blogging, and I've made 8 blogs in about a month. My blogs are kind of long, but Blogspot, where I do my blogging, said, Emily, you know, you really need to update your blogging look because everyone is reading your blog on cell phones. And I didn't let this bog me down. I instead changed the way my blog looks so that you can easily view it on your cell phone. The next thing I wanted to say was I was supposed to have a fabulous travel semester. I was supposed to go to Iceland and learn about genetics and sustainability firsthand. And I was not able to do that. The pandemic shut down travel. But the blog must go on. And instead I blogged about my conference that I was able to attend in Atlanta, Georgia on resiliency planning. And so I have a blog on that. I also had been planning to do a firsthand account of looking at newborn heel sticks and what it tells us about genetic disease in infants. And that also did not come to pass because we are at home. And in this case, I substituted a relaxing post about sitting in your backyard and just observing nature. I found that my neighbors liked some aspects. They liked the sitting in the chair, and my kids liked the humorous posts. Overall, I have learned what Mary Flannery O'Connor says: I write to discover what I know, but to change that up, it's I blog to discover what I know. And I would recommend to my fellow Toastmasters, if you want to know what you know, try blogging. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Emily. Now we're back to Antoinette. Antoinette.
Yeah, you all hear me now?
Perfect. Yes, glad to have you back with us.
Yes, had some difficulties. Yeah.
Yes, back to my earlier question. Can you just tell us what was the feedback you got from the first speech and what are the particular points that you're working on for the second speech?
From the speech previous to that, Tiger told me that I didn't need all that big introduction. I should have just gone straight into the speech that I was doing. So that is what I'm attempting to do now. And today, this evening, I'm working on engagement humor. And that is what I'm working on this evening.
Thank you. And Antoinette brings us the speech today called Caribbean names, Caribbean style. In her introduction, she said, in the Caribbean region, we simply like to abbreviate names. For example, her name is Antoinette Diane Trim, but folks will call her Anton or Diana. Let's hear it. There you go, Antoinette.
Good evening, my fellow Toastmasters. According to an article titled A Brief Introduction to the History of Names, since written history began, people have had names. We have had descriptive names even since the beginning of Christianity. We had both Jewish and Roman names. In the Caribbean, it's a common occurrence to have nicknames. This is in accordance to an article by Irving Williams in 2007. During my school years, I've had 2 nicknames. One was called Skinner Park. Skinner Park because I'm always laughing. And I would even laugh at the wind. So my schoolmates used to call me Skinner Park. Another nickname that was embellished on me as well was Guy Smiley. I'm always smiling. For good things or for bad things, I'm always smiling. So they nicknamed me Guy Smiley, that is from Sesame Street, a TV character. Even at work, they would even abbreviate my name. My full name, as you know, is Antoinette Diane Mary, and my surname is Trim. And they, instead of calling me Antoinette, they'll call me Anto or Trimbo, which brings a ring to it. Nicknames like our real names are normally given to describe someone. In the Caribbean, most people are given nicknames. For example, I have a friend named Shaba. They nicknamed him Shaba actually because all the songs that he will play in his vehicle is from a Jamaican reggae dancehall artist called Shabba Ranks. So they nicknamed him Shaba. Apparently, Shaba is a popular nickname in Grenada. So if you decide to go to Grenada and you say you want to speak to Shaba, they could ask you, Shaba, where he's living. Because there's someone by the name of Shaba who lives in Frequenté. He could be living Granans, he could be living Sutters, and what have you. Another name that is a nickname we have is someone called Broku. He's a very good friend of mine. And the reason why we nicknamed him Broku is because he walked with a hop and drop. So everyone in the village know him as Broku. My sister as well, she has a grandson, and he is somewhat brown skin and complexion with respect to all his other siblings. So she would call him Mong Mong. If any of you ask me what's his real name, I don't even have a clue. All I know is Mong Mong. There's another nickname that is quite popular as well called Tar Baby. If someone is very dark in complexion, we would call him Tar Baby. There's a mechanic shop which is established just outside one of the fire stations in Tobago. And so when the firemen are reporting to work or going home, they'd always hail out to him, like saying, good evening, good morning, have a good day. And most people respond is, I'm fine, you too have a good day. But instead he will say, don't bother me. I will speak slowly. It is, do not bother me. So the firemen nicknamed him, Don't Bother Me. There's another guy, another friend of mine as well. He's somewhat short in stature and very stocky. And we call him Butterball. There's scarcely anyone living in the Caribbean region whose name has not been altered one way or the other. In some cases, the name given is stuck with you from the cradle to the grave. I am happy that none of my nicknames stuck with me. At least I'm known by my proper names: Antoinette, Diana, Mary, Trim. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Antoinette. That is definitely a good thing to know. Now, I would like to call our timer tonight to let us know, is all 3 speakers qualified for time? Roxanne, we have trouble hearing you. I think there's something wrong with your microphone, but judging by the smile on your face, I'm taking a wild guess all the, all the speakers qualified for their time. So everyone in the meeting, please send your vote for the best speaker tonight to our vote counter. Thank you. Now we're concluding the splendid session of speaking for tonight, and we'll keep moving on to an even more splendid session for tonight, that is table topics. I'm going to hand it over to our table topic master tonight. John.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. In table topics, we have an opportunity to practice our impromptu speaking. And all the timing for these are 1 to 2 minute mini speeches. I'm going to give a topic, then I'll call on someone to respond. Today our theme is growth mindset. So everything's about the way we think about things and what kind of mindsets we have. First question, describe your mindset today. Describe your mindset today. Nik Lakhani.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. My mindset today is about growth, and it's about personal growth. What I've found over the last 2 months is that my preparation is now meeting many opportunities. All the work that we've done in online presenters and other clubs that I belong to, what I found was that this COVID virus, yes, it's bad for health, for people have been hurt, people have died, and so on. For me personally, what I've been able to do is to go and develop myself into a space that didn't exist before, not to that extent, and I've been able to help people. I've been able to grow as a person and also help others communicate and enable them to be leaders in not only their Toastmaster clubs, but then hopefully into their communities. Because the idea is, it's not about getting Toastmasters online and into their clubs. Yes, that's a good thing. It's about the bigger picture. It's about this idea. And one of the really good things about the fact that we are leaders in the making, we've got a chance to show it outside of our clubs. Therefore, I put it to you. I ask everybody here, what are you doing in terms of your community? What are you doing in terms of your leadership? What are you doing to put the practice that you've been practicing and making it a reality out into the community and connecting people who cannot necessarily connect themselves, as well as doing other things? But what are you doing specifically about your Toastmaster skills? And you are a communication specialist, as well as a speaker, as well as a leader. Show those skills, help your communities, help them connect, because together, connected, we're stronger. Back to you, Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you, Nik. That could have been a prepared speech, even during table topics. Amazing.
It was.
Great job. Next question. How has your mindset about public speaking changed since you became a Toastmaster? How has your mindset about public speaking changed since you became a Toastmaster? Let's hear from Graham Cairns.
Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, when I first joined Toastmasters, and we go back 4 decades here, I haven't been a member for 4 decades, but I first joined 4 decades ago. I was a radio announcer and I could talk to 50,000 people at a time. Didn't worry me because I couldn't see them. Stick 50 of those 50,000 people in front of me and my tongue would take on all the characteristics of a killer whale's fluke in my mouth. I was terrible. And a colleague said, Graham, you're always going to be a mid-ranking radio announcer in a mid-ranking radio station unless you do something about learning to be comfortable in front of crowds of real people, and suggested I go along to Toastmasters. Well, I did. And I have learned some skills, I would like to think, in terms of delivery. But more importantly, what I have learned from my membership of Toastmasters from that very first club in Tamworth all those years ago is something that was expressed really well in the movie Pay It Forward. That there are people who will give you support, that there are people who will help you grow. But it's important that you pay that forward. In every club that I've ever been involved with in Toastmasters, I've taken on a leadership role. It might be president, it might be sergeant at arms, but there's a role on the committee that I have taken in every single club because I believe it is important that the benefits that I have gained from Toastmasters, I pay forward to other people. Now, this isn't a plug asking you to stand for this club because we've already elected our club for our club executive for the next year. But seriously, if you are in another Toastmasters club, consider what you can give back to the club because the club has no doubt given you enormous benefits. You can pay that forward. And that's the biggest mindset change for me, Mr. Topics Master, that I have gained and I should pass that on and be a mentor as well as being a protege. Mr. Topic Master.
Hey, thanks for sharing your story with us, Graham. Also, I think whale sounds are a first in online presenters today. I think we should have more. Next question is, what does the term growth mindset mean to you? Or what does it make you think about? What does the term growth mindset mean to you? Marianne Grady.
I love the term growth mindset because it's what I do. I am a lifelong learner and I have devoted myself to making sure that I wake up and have that mentality every day. I've been an HR professional for over 20 years and I really had the pleasure of working with so many people, mentoring them along the way. And then as I moved into Toastmasters about 10 years ago, the first time I was in there, I was terrified. And through the kindness and mentorship that I received there, I was able to grow. And last year, I was actually the president of the club. And I remember the first day thinking, I could never do what that president is doing up in front of the room. And Toastmasters, a good Toastmaster has that growth mindset every day of their life, every meeting, always thinking of how to improve, and you just do. And just like Graham had said earlier, then you pay it forward. So now I've just moved away from my home club and I still mentor people there. And I just love it. I keep those contacts up. We have friendships that have formed over the time, and I am so grateful for those associations. Now in my new state here, I've just joined a new club, and it's a lot smaller, so I decided to add on to that experience by joining the online presenters here. but I thank you all for allowing me to continue with my growth mindset. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Marianne. Toastmasters is an excellent place for the growth mindset. And I think you helped us describe why. Next question is, what is something about which you wish you had a different mindset? What is something about which you wish you had a different mindset? Kenann.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This is such a wonderful question because we're all here to grow and learn. And in thinking about what I would like to have a different mindset about, the first thing that comes to mind is the most difficult part of my job. The most difficult part of my job is fundraising. And I'm getting over the belief that in order to provide good services to schools, that I need to somehow charge the school. I would like to just give them the services and make everything available. But I'm quickly realizing that in order to continue to provide a high quality of service, sometimes we need to raise the funds and charge the fees. So I am trying to develop a better predisposition around the concept of fundraising and fundraising for good. That fundraising could be used for good means and that there are people who are willing to support causes that they passionately believe in. So as I've been working on that mindset, it's made me approach my work a little differently versus giving away services, which is something that I have been known to do. And in the time of COVID-19, when everyone needs to be mindful of their resources and mindful of being sustainable, I realized that I do need to make a different kind of effort to raise the resources we need to continue to serve our schools. So in that way, I am actively working on that mindset change, and I appreciate the ability to share that with everybody. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for sharing, Kenann. And we will support you in any way we can, helping you with that mindset. So maybe you come practice your fundraising on us here at Toastmasters.
Thank you.
Next question is, tell us about a time you failed and how you responded. Tell us about a time you failed and how you responded. Birgit.
All right. I don't take failure very well, but I have found that it's always a learning experience regardless. I'm not sure I'm willing to own this particular failure, but I do remember having a manager, and as human resources put it, we're like oil and water. We just had different ways that we approached problems. We had different ways that we approached problem solving. We had different ways that we approached customers. We had different ways that we approached partners. So there wasn't a whole lot of commonality. I think what made it worse is that one by one, everybody in that leadership group, all the women were suddenly gone. So while I tried to basically come up with more conversations, trying to connect with my manager at the time, it just really wasn't working. So I actually took the proactive step of reaching out to some other groups that I was working with in the same company, and managed to find a home where I truly felt at home, where I had the same approach to the company strategy, to reaching out to customers, to reaching out to partners. So that was definitely a learning experience for me. And I don't think that I was necessarily wrong, but it taught me a lot about the interactions with other people and how that personal connection is very important. And the interesting thing is I'm still at the company and that person is not. So I think I win, Mr. Table Topics Master.
I thank you. Very good. Yes, you won the battle of attrition. Congratulations. Madam Vice President of our membership can I please verify that there are no prospective member speeches today?
There are no prospective member speeches. Thank you for checking.
Thank you. Let's do one more table topic before going back to our Toastmaster. Final topic. What is your mindset about online learning? What is your mindset about online learning? Diane Rubino.
Thank you so much, John, for calling on me. I'm a little afraid of online learning. I've been doing online learning synchronous. That means I'm live with my students for the past few years. And at first, the very first time, a few years ago, I got a class and they said, oh, we'd like you to teach this communication class online. And I thought, this is insane. Like, what do you mean teach communications online? But they were willing to pay me for not leaving my living room. So I thought that was a good plan. And it turned out to be a great class and a lot of fun. But this semester, the situation was different and the students were extremely stressed out in my graduate class. And it just made it very difficult. I tried to do what I can to keep it lively and informative, but I wasn't sure how well I was doing. I guess I'll read the student evaluations and find out. And I'm about to embark on my first ever async 14-week planning session for the fall. First time I've ever done async. That makes me nervous, but it's kind of exciting. And I am so glad that I have this terrific group of people, this splendid group that I can just bounce ideas off of. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Diane, and good luck with your next semester. Thanks to everyone who participated in table topics today. Let's send our votes. No, let's hear from our timer, please. Was everyone within their timing?
How is my sound coming through now? Still no sound?
Good.
Or am I good? I'm good? And yes, I'm happy to announce we're all clear. Everyone's a go.
Okay, thank you, Roxanne.
You're welcome.
Let's send our votes by private message to Christian, our vote counter, as a reminder of who we're voting for. There was Nick, Graham, Marianne, Kenann, Birgit, and Diane. Please send your votes. Thanks for participating in table topics. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, John. That is a very well organized table topics. Thank you. And I'm happy to move the meeting along to our next section, the evaluation part of the meeting. Our general evaluator today is Tiger. Tiger, take away.
Thank you very much, esteemed Toastmaster Day, and excellent job, Sarah. Thank you very much for that. We have a world-class lineup of evaluators tonight. So we're all, not just the speakers, but every one of us is going to learn from these speech evaluations especially. The first speech evaluation will be given by Graham regarding Carol's speech. So Graham, the virtual stage is all yours, sir. No whale sounds.
No whale sounds from me. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, or Mr. General Evaluator, ladies and gentlemen, and particularly thank you, Carol. Carol today was giving the monodrama. Now, the monodrama is an interesting exercise because we've all heard monologues, but a monodrama is something slightly different. It involves the internal struggle of the protagonist, and the interpretive reading is to bring that struggle out to us so that we all feel that we are part of it. The vocalization of Carol's speech today was a high point for me. I thought she used pitch and tone beautifully to highlight first Jonathan's despair at his failure at going at the fastest speed ever, but then his epiphany that he didn't have to do things the way he had always done, that he could change it all. We soared, if you like, along with Jonathan Livingston Seagull as she read this excerpt. Carol, by the way, was looking toward us, but not at us, which is a really important part for the monodrama. You're not supposed to actually make eye contact with the audience. You're supposed to acknowledge that the audience is there, but you are internalizing the monodrama. Carol obviously loves this story and she sees her dad's memory in Jonathan Livingston Seagull. But I would say that Carol appears to be more comfortable with the narrative of this story rather than the internal dialogue. There were some parts where Jonathan was talking to himself and we didn't get characterization of his voice in those parts. That, I think, would have helped us even more bring us into the struggle from the inside rather than from the outside as observers. The other suggestion I would make for Carol with this speech is a short introduction to the character. It might be something like, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Livingston Seagull is a book about a seagull who refuses to be constrained by his upbringing, and all of the other gulls, and especially his father, urge him to accept his lot, but he won't. And then comes the day when he tries too hard, and then go into the excerpt. That then sets the story in the mind of those of us who haven't read this piece from the 70s, which is, I reckon everybody should read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, by the way. I was finally, though, really, really pleased to see somebody take on this very challenging project from a very challenging manual and do it so particularly well. I know that Carol is completing another educational award with the presentation of this speech, and I am proud to have been part of her doing so, and I am so pleased that I got the chance to see her deliver this monodrama. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Graham. Like I said, world class, he delivered. And our next speech evaluator, also a world class evaluator and Toastmaster, and this is Mr. Lou Brown. It's all yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. GE, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Toastmaster Anto. Splendid speech, Toastmaster Anto. I really enjoyed it. I was really looking forward to evaluating your speech because, first of all, I have never evaluated you before. And second, because this is all about the humor track that you are now taking. And I really enjoyed so many of your speeches before. I have enjoyed all of your speeches before because you always add a bit of humor to them, and I really enjoyed that. Now, for this speech, first of all, with your feedback, I believe you shared with Sarah that your feedback was about your intro. I wasn't sure if it was the written intro or the spoken intro, which sometimes is called the opening. I assume it was more in terms of the written intro. However, making it more powerful, I'm not exactly sure how to do that based on your first one because I don't know what the first one was. But in any event, this one was very well crafted, well put together, and gave us a good sense of where you were going. Of course, the title of your speech gave us a good sense of where you were going. And boy, you really didn't disappoint. Your opening, I did like the fact how you started off referencing an article that had to do with Caribbean names. For me, I really like openings that are really grab you and get you and hook you. I would have liked to have heard you say some of those names, just like, what do these names have in common? Da, baby, do, para, whatever those names are. And then say, maybe nothing, but they're all nicknames, something like that, and then go into your speech. I like how you took those names and you added a little bit of a background to them, how those names came to be, which is usually the thing with nicknames. My nickname was Busy when I was a little kid because I was always into stuff. And my brother was named Booty because he was always kicking his shoes off. So I really liked how you gave us some background to that. I will say, for me, it was a little challenging to hear some of these because of the accent. Now, I shared with early on that I don't have a Boston accent. Thankfully, I was able to read the chat and hear one of the names in particular, Tar Baby. I heard Ta Baby, and I'm thinking, okay, it could be Tar, but I wasn't sure. In any event, I was a little challenged with hearing some of them, but that really didn't matter because it was all about the funny sounding of them, and that really added to the humor, so thank you for that. I also like how some of those names are put together simply because there were a mashing of the different words, like Don't Bother Me. I thought, oh, wow, that's pretty clever. I did recognize one of those names, Shaba Ranks, the famous singer. That was awesome. I liked how you did that. And of course, some of them were just purely funny because of what I envisioned the person to look like Butterball or Butter Baby, Butter Boy. I can't remember. I just remember the word butter being in there. So I assumed it was someone who ate a lot of butter, otherwise was round like a turkey, perhaps. In any event, awesome speech, splendid speech. Great job in bringing humor to something that I knew you would do so, because it is just a funny concept to listen to. And I look forward to hearing more of your very splendid humorous speeches. Toastmaster Anto, back to you, GE.
Splendid evaluation number 2. Andrew, you have some big shoes to fill. This will be world-class evaluation number 3, and it's all yours, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Emily, for providing this interesting speech on blogging. And we now have blogging and we have vlogging. We have many different forms of things as we're moving into the technology. But I want to ask this question for all of you that listen to the speech. How many got a reference to her statement, life is what happens while you are busy making other plans? Where did that come from? Yes, Diane.
It's Lennon.
Absolutely correct. And so it's
that,
really
Lennon.
humorous that when you're doing a speech, that you have sort of like when you hear the Beatles and play the record backwards to hear a different message that comes from the song. By doing this blog and including that quote, for those that picked up on Lennon, they would have an entirely different perspective on your blog. I liked your stories, the fact that you were supposed to be going on sabbaticals on some very interesting places like Iceland, but because of COVID, your trips were canceled and you started focusing on this. I like the fact that you talked about resiliency. This virtual club is in part a way that all the other clubs in the world are performing resiliency and keeping themselves surviving. And I like the quote that you had, I write to discover what I know. Try blogging. And then you had a call for action. Try blogging. So your speech in a very short period of time covered many, many interesting things. One, it had a call for action. It had some humorous sections, some of which people may have heard about, others they may not have understood what the reference was to, but you had it in there so that people could really enjoy what they see. You use phrases like blog must go on, which was part of the humorous sentence structure that you were using within your speech. And you have on your evaluation parts of what you spoke verbally as well as what you wrote about. I look forward to reading those writings after this and sending you the PDF results. How would I sum this all up? I thought you did a very interesting approach to blogging. You might have defined what blogging really was. In the old days, it might have been called taking diary experiences and writing it down, keeping an activity of your life. But overall, you had a great speech on blogging. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Another world-class evaluation, and our timer is now going to let us know if all 3 evaluators met their appropriate times.
Once again,
Everybody's in the voting.
everybody's in.
So please send your votes to Christian and we'll find out who we think is our best evaluator. They all 3 were amazing. So I was impressed. I hope that you were impressed as well and that we all learned something from that. And now let's hear from our chat monitor, Elaine. How did we do chatting with each other today?
Well, this evening, there were lots of comments initially about whether we were recording or not, and I was wondering who actually got it going, and I did learn it was John, apparently, that figured out the code to get things started, so that was wonderful. There were some introductions from guests, and I would invite any guest who did not put in a mini bio in the chat to add that in before they leave our meeting tonight. That also serves as a record of their attendance. And there were a couple comments about Carol's speech and Emily's blogging, like, don't let this blog me down. I didn't let this blog me down. That was enjoyed by a number of people. And there were a number of comments related to Butterball and the fun nicknames that Emily shared. And lastly, I would like to invite everybody to go back and notice that both Emily has put her blog link in the chat, and it also spurred Jim and Chris Guld to list theirs as well. They have a blog called geeksontour.blogspot.com, and Emily's is Your Green Jeans, GENES.blogspot.com. Back to you, Tiger.
Excellent job, Elaine. Thank you very much. Our watcher of the day is Brian. How did we do on screen, sir?
Thank you very much for that, Mr. General Evaluator. I noticed a couple of things. For the most part, everyone did an excellent job of making sure they turned off the video when they needed to step up, stretch, whatever. I'd like to hand out some awards to people. The most consistent smile, the person who smiled the entire meeting, was Roxanne. Give it up for Roxanne for smiling so much. The person who used the most emoticon reactions is going to be Kenann. Congratulations on that one. The best avatar for when they turned off their video, that's going to go to Christian. I love the suit, my friend. That was a very good look he had there. And the winner for the best virtual background in terms of blending in with their actual picture is Emily Thompson. That's all I've got. Back to you, Tiger.
Excellent. Nice creative way to do it there with our award ceremony. I like that very much. Thank you, sir. Our counter is Chris.
Yes, Mr. General Evaluator and fellow Toastmasters. Well, I knew that this would be a tough job with this group. These are a lot of advanced speakers, and it was. I had to listen very carefully, but I did find a few. I first want to call out Diane Rubino, though. No, it's good, smile, because I have been listening so hard, and when she first started talking on her table topics, she was so relaxed. I thought, oh, okay, here's going to be one. When you're relaxed, you fall into saying us. She did not. She did not at all. And I felt the importance of calling that one out. I tried to ding, but I don't know, can you hear that? I wasn't, but unmuting and dinging at the same time is very difficult, but I think it's something that's been missing in this online meeting. It taught me in Stick and Brick Toastmasters, it really makes a difference to hear that ding. You're shocked. You don't realize that you said an ah. So I tried, but it's still tough, but I did count. So Elaine had 1. Marianne had 1 ah. Birgit had 2. Emily Thompson had 1. Sarah Gao, I counted 6. Andy Bern had 2. And that is the counters report. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm very glad that you didn't get an opportunity to use your little banging. My first brick and mortar club, my first meeting, the guy was beating that thing to death, and I darn near just went down and tackled him. Like, yeah, I know I'm on a lot. Quit it. Timer, Roxanne, how did all our evaluators do at this point?
all the evaluators, oh, did I not post that? All the evaluators came in on time. We're all good to go.
Do you have time for our counter, our grammarian, and so
No,
forth?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not time those helpers.
Okay, no problem. They were obviously very efficient, so that was well done.
Yes, what they stand the risk of is coming in under time, not over.
And with everybody being so efficient, I actually get to give a general evaluation, which is kind of unusual in this class, in this club, excuse me. We had an excellent meeting. Every meeting, you're gonna have a few little hiccups. And we had a little hiccup at the beginning. We didn't have anyone to record our meeting, but John, being Mr. Quick and being a techno master, figured it out very quickly. And so that worked out. I don't think we missed very much of this meeting at all. Thank you very much, John. Antoinette, die smiling. What a great line. That's kind of how I felt tonight. I felt like I was dying smiling because this meeting was so impressive. Let me talk about our evaluators. Our speakers already got evaluations, so I'll come back to them if I have a little time, but our evaluators, Graham, phenomenal job of pointing out specifically things that she did well, and also specifically things that could be improvement, characterization of voices, a short intro. Very well done. The thing I love about Graham is he gives you things that are specific that you can improve. And that is helpful for everybody. I believe when I listen to these evaluations, I internalize these ideas. Second evaluator, Lou, I appreciate that Lou, he's a professional, but he adds humor. He adds humor to everything he does. And I'm a very serious person, but I like a little bit of humor. And Lou is the master. Again, specific things that he liked, specific things that could be improved. And he stayed on task in terms of what Antoinette had said that she wanted to improve upon. I appreciate that greatly. I especially love the comment about the butterball. That was great stuff, great stuff. Andrew's a little bit more of a technical evaluator, always very good. Excellent. Again, specific things that were good and specific things that need improvement. That's the one thing I'm always impressed about this club, and I get the same feedback from guests, is the evaluations in this club are absolutely world-class. I would recommend anybody in the world that wants to learn how to evaluate, watch the evaluations from this club. And that's even, we missed Jim Barber, who unfortunately wasn't here, but Andrew did a very nice job filling in for him, and thank you for that, sir. Our chat manager, Elaine. The only thing I'd say about Elaine is we need a little more energy next time, okay? You know, it's kind of a flat. I got her laugh. Yeah, that was my goal. Beautiful. Elaine is like the laugh master. No, a really nice job of doing the chat, you know, going through and identifying that there are good pieces of information there. And I found some things pretty interesting in the chat, especially I love the bios from the guests. Wow, do we have some impressive guests here. The watcher, Brian, a very nice, efficient evaluation. I love the fact that you did awards. I feel bad I didn't get an award, but the people who got awards, I'm sure felt wonderful. Very well done, sir. Grammarian-Tricia, that was very efficient. For as many people that speak, I find the grammarian job in this club is very hard because you're trying to write down all the great things that get said. There's not very many opportunities really to point out poor language, but I find I have all these copious notes and I can't read them because they're so sloppy. You did an excellent job. I appreciate it. The awe counter, Chris, I was really glad you didn't get me for an awe. I was thinking really I should call on you first. That way I can get away with a couple ahs. Very nicely done. Again, I'm really glad you didn't get to bang. John, I think John heard a couple bangs. He wasn't quite sure what it was. At least that was his message in the chat there. Timer, Roxanne, very well done. I don't know if I've ever seen a timer with a running clock. And I was thinking to myself, while I was speaking, I don't know if I would pin her. Like, oh man, I'm at 2 minutes and 33 seconds. But very well done. That's very clever. And again, the speakers have that option to pin you or not. So that was a nice addition. I've never seen that done before. Thank you very much. Overall, it was a wonderful meeting. I'm sure our guests all, from what I saw in the chat, feedback I got, our guests were impressed. They learned, and I'm sure they'll be back. At this point, I will turn it back. Oh, my evaluation of our Toastmaster today, Sarah, you were fantastic.
Tiger, we're over time now.
Okay,
you
back to you, my Toastmaster.
Evaluation.
Back
Do
to my
send your
Toastmaster.
feedback privately, though, to Sarah. I think she'll appreciate it. Can maybe type her a message. Sarah,
Vote counter. We need real quick to get our votes there, Christian. Sorry about that, John. Christian, what do we got for our votes?
I have shared the votes by private message to our session Toastmaster, Mr. G.
Yes, I have it here. It's also in chat. Our best prepared speaker today, winner is Emily. Our best table topic speaker is Birgit. Our best evaluator today is Lo Brown. Thank you very much for our vote counter today, Christian. That's an excellent job counting the votes. So, now this, another O and R for me. So there you go. Give it back to John Quick.
thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Great job today, Sarah. Everybody, we have 2 minutes left, and we want to hear from a couple guests. But if you're a guest and you don't get to speak right now, go ahead and put a message to us in the chat, because we read those too, to let us know what you thought of the meeting.
John, can I interrupt for just 10 seconds, because I want this to go onto the recording. Many of us are proud when we've achieved more than one Competent Communicator Award, for example. But today, we got to see Carol present and receive her 6th ACB award. Now that's fairly spectacular, and I think is worthy of a round of applause. So congratulations there, Carol.
All right, thank you, Graham. Congratulations, Carol. How about Sharika? Can you tell us what you thought of the meeting today?
Thank you, Toastmaster. I think of all the meetings that I've attended online, this was one of the most professional meetings that I've come across. There were so many small things which stood out, like the timer's background, as well as the R counter dings that, that I've not come across in other meetings. Very professionally conducted, and it makes me want to come back again. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and you're welcome to come back. How about Raj Pandian? Can you please give us your feedback?
Thank you very much, Toastmaster John Quick. I'd like to echo the sentiments of Toastmaster Sharika. Very professionally done. Thoroughly enjoyed the speeches. Particularly, I have to put this on record. Toastmaster Graham's evaluation was something that will stand out in my memory for a really long time. Because I'm right now in interpretive reading manual, and I'm at the point of completing my ACG. And my next speech is going to be monodrama. So that evaluation is going to be the standard which I'll try to scale to. I will try. I'm just not promising I'll be able to match, because that was a really good evaluation and the speaker was not any less compared to the evaluator. Thank you very much for having us. Over to you.
All right, thank you for visiting. And I'm seeing so many other guests coming again. I see Li Ching, Sarah, Andre, and so many more. We're all happy to have you. And get in touch with Elaine if you're thinking about pursuing official membership. We're at the end of our time.
Is a new member.
So
I just have to jump in. Li Sing is a new member. Yay!
Oh, congratulations, Li Sing. Great. And Elaine, do you have anything you want on the video before we stop recording?
Well, I do want to point out that next week, the 18th of May, is new member spotlight evening. So it is speeches primarily from our newest members, icebreakers. They'll get to, you know, share the essence of them with us. So we're really looking forward to that meeting.
Great. And on June 1st, it's not on the agenda yet, but we're preparing, hopefully, for a special guest speaker. So look forward to news on that soon. Going to stop the recording for our formal meeting now.